What happens if we do not simply use AI to make one part of the publishing easier? What happens if we try to rebuild the entire publishing pipeline around AI and automation? Fred Zimmerman is a publisher, a technologist, a researcher who has spent decades exploring what happens when kind of books and technology collide. His latest experiment is called Big Five Killer, which is not exactly a name designed to quietly reassure the traditional publishing establishment. And when Fred and I spoke, he suggested that publishing professionals may increasingly move from doing the craft themselves to supervising the craft. Or if you put it in his own words, we may all need to become princess or possibly princesses, managing our people, our systems, and our fleet of bots so that when they meet the fleet of bots from the person across the valleys, ours wins. I'm from Europe, and so castles and princesses made immediately sense to me. But Fred just not predicting what AI might actually eventually do. He's actually building and testing it. So let's see what he has learned. And with that, Fred, over to you.
Hi, I'm Fred Zimmerman. As Stefan mentioned, I've been involved in publishing and books for a long time, most of my life. To date myself, I grew up living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I could bicycle down to Borders number one. Some of you may remember Borders. They were the first really algorithmic book retailer. Their claim to fame was their vastly superior inventory system, which let them have wonderful selection. My father was a professor, so I could go down, I could borrow his card and go down to the U of M Graduate Library, and they have a world-class selection of books there. I could see sort of everything that's ever been published is there. It's one of the better university libraries in the world. That's where I'm coming from as far as why I'm doing this. I love books. They've been the centerpiece of my life. I care a great deal about quality in the world of books and creating good reading experiences for people. There's a segment of the AI and books world that's kind of slop oriented, to be perfectly candid, and I'm just not part of that. It's not for me. I've had a lot of different experiences. They're summarized here, but kind of the common theme has been um, providing access to complex information to professionals. But I'm also, because I'm not just interested in helping professionals, I'm also a person. I have my own trade publishing company, which is both focused around serving uh, general audiences. That's Nimble Books. You can reach my website at big5killer.online. Dot online is the domain name. And as Sebastian hinted, I gave that the name is not intended to be uh, tactful, but it was more intended just to get people's attention, to make people realize, hey, this is something you need to pay attention to, which is that it's now possible for people, you know, highly empowered individuals, princes, if you will, to do a great deal of the publishing enterprise on their own driving AI. And if you go to the website and look around, which I recommend you do at some point, you'll see that it combines my interests, which are publishing, research, and business related. There's some of each of them there. But what I want to do in the remainder of our session here is I kind of leave you through five really important things that I think everyone should know about algorithmic book publishing using frontier models, which is what they call the state-of-the-art models like Anthropic's Claude or the Soul from OpenAI. First, I'm going to do the first slide here. The first thing I think is really important that everyone understand who's here is that there's a lot of um, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt. There's a lot of question marks people have about AI. But from the person point of view of people like myself who are actively programming with AI, there's no question that the singularity is here. There's a takeoff point has been passed, and people the capabilities are ex improving exponentially. Uh, the key thing that happened, kind of two key things that happened for the book publishing world. One was in 2019. It was researchers realized that they could keep piling data into these transformer systems, and the results would keep getting better the more and more they piled in. That is what led to the impetus for acquiring huge numbers of, unfortunately, unpermissioned books to pour into the training process. Those books are now a tiny fraction of all the information that's been poured into the data, into the models, because they have all harvested basically the entire web plus lots and lots of other sorts of data. um, and it's just it's accelerating. The latest model has 10 trillion parameters. um, that was a really huge scientific realization for in the AI world that drove a lot of dramatic and not all pleasant things in the book world. Then the most in 2025 there was a kind of unexpected moment where programmers realized that all of a sudden that the so-called agentic AIs could um, reliably do things on their own. And it's hard to understate how important this has been to programmers. I mean, basically, every programmer in the world has switched from typing code when they're, for the active coding part of their job to telling agents what to do. So you've had, that's, I can't think of another uh, example where all the people in an entire profession have switched their tools in the course of less than a year. It's as if everyone who was a pilot suddenly had to learn how to swim, to get around. It's just completely different, and so the the changes continue to accelerate. You have these three major models I want to mention just so people know about them. Anthropic's is called Fable 5. What it does that is most remarkable is that it spawns off lots of agents all at once to do things in parallel. So this is what people are talking about when they're saying fleets of bots. Uh, the publicly accessible version of Fable, routinely generates 40 to 100 agents to do something for me. I think that means that the people at Anthropic who are inside using their latest versions are creating thousands of agents to do things at the same time. And I think that's kind of where we're heading, where it's just, everybody is going to have not just one or two agents working for them, but, hundreds or thousands. And there's eventually, again, this is sort of possibly unfortunate, but there's going to be millions and billions of these agents flying around doing things. It's going to be a very complicated environment. It's just getting, worse for practitioners. I also like to, acknowledge Amy's speech, which I thought was quite good. She said a lot of really sensible, grounded things about, how to manage transformation. I'm kind of the problem person in the transformation world. In my 1994, I was working for a contractor for NASA, and our CEO called me into the office to ask for some technical help with a problem. And I took her aside and I said, "Oh, by the way, now that I've fixed this for you, have you heard about this thing called the World Wide Web?" And I showed her how, I could put data sets on our system and download them to her desk from the World Wide Web. This, unfortunately, is a organizational problem because we had a big organization that was building a very elaborate, complicated system that did the same thing but much more expensively. And as a result, I nearly got my boss fired, which is unfortunate. So, I kind of play. That's kind of how I place myself in the context of Amy's very interesting presentation. There are people like me who are always pushing the envelope for their organizations, and those people are more and more empowered now, and it's going to be a continuing issue as we see people do that. Just one more slide, one more point that I want people to take away from the sort of big picture technology. More changes are happening in the next 6 months. You're probably going to see people claim what they call recursive self-improvement, where models are actually improving themselves, and their models are training the agents that fix the models and improve them, make them better and better. You're going to see another thing called Claudish. People have noticed that these super high-powered frontier models talk in their own kind of lingo. They invent terms, sort of compressed shorthand to explain things to people. That's very interesting to me because it is it's sort of publishing related, it's language related. We're building machines that are so sophisticated that they need to invent their own language, which we need to learn to read and then possibly translate or possibly publish ourselves. And Dario Amodei, the head of Anthropic, has talked about, what he thinks the end state is a country of geniuses in a data center. So, maybe 50 million a data center will have 50 million Mozarts and, two or three publisher geniuses, perhaps. So, it's going to be a complex and challenging environment that people are facing. I asked Fable 5, the Anthropic AI, to introduce itself to book publishers, and this is what it came up with. You can read this for yourself. Um, I think it's pretty accurate. That's the great advantages of AIs. They've been trained on everything. They can do everything, and they are good now at doing mechanical tasks rapidly. And they're humble. They have all these skills, and they have a sense of self-perception that's not. It's not. I wouldn't say it's consciousness, but it is. It's an emulation of consciousness. It's interesting. Now, given all this, I want to take a little moment and help you guys understand the next thing that is key is that I can give you an example of what one person, myself, has been able to do. I've been working away at this for almost 15 years now, but there was a huge acceleration in my ability to get things done in December 2025 when this we hit this turning point. And in that time, here's what I've done. I put up the Big Five Killer website. I've made a Mac app to go with it, an iOS app to go with it. I figured out a way to have my books automatically upload their data to Hugging Face, which is the leading data set sharing site, and that creates a reverse funnel where people who are going to data Hugging Face find, oh, there's a data set that's about topic X. Uh, by the way, there's also a book that was generated using more advanced analysis from the data set. So it's turning a whole new discovery path. I published 322 books in the last 6 months. 144 more forthcoming. I've set up 15 new imprints. Uh, I've explored a whole bunch of new research areas, visual representations of content, basically taking the content of books and putting it on a two-dimensional map. I figured out ways that you can use math to make this LLM math generation work better. So you imagine the content of a book is it's a dot on a two-dimensional axis. You tell the model, move this dot 20% to the upper right-hand corner. You have the LLM, the model, generate the content that should make it the dot come out of that location. Then this is the great part. You can have the math. You can verify that you wound up in the location you meant to by using the math to verify that what the LLM generated was what you told it to do. This is all, a lot more than people realize you can easily do with models now. It's not about, generations that are, sloppy and full of hallucinations. You can do a lot better than that. I wrote research articles. This is 6 months output. If I can do that, lots of other people can do it. And they are doing it. There's thousands of other people probably who are doing equally interesting and ambitious things with publishing and every other profession. So it's things are going to move really, really fast now. So that's one thing I wanted to make you realize is this is a not a dramatically atypical baseline. This is a fairly reasonable, example of what people may be able to do in the future. Okay. I want to give you a particular concrete example of something I did recently that I'm having a lot of fun with, called the scale surrenders at Appomattox. For the non-US viewers, uh, Robert E. Lee, the Confederate leader, surrendered to U.S. Grant, the Union leader, at Appomattox. And there is a great 128 volume documentary history of the Civil War that was created by the U.S. Department of War, which was then called the Department of War, in the 1870s, 1890s. It's been out of print for a long time. It's very difficult to use because it was not produced as a reference work, it was produced as a giant pile of government documents. Uh, on June 14th, I decided to sort of move this pet project further. And I said, okay, I'm going to see if I can make a new, revised, better edition of this huge set of books. And in that time, since then, I have typeset 174 volumes in a new, improved format that has more better page stamping and so forth. I've created 15 new volumes that are uh, mostly indexes, glossaries, that sort of thing. The index is 120,000 entries that I've scrubbed very, very carefully, multiple steps. Uh, the new version comes out to be 174 volumes because there are page uh, printing limitations that I have to respect. This is an enormous publishing task and a pretty straightforward, falls well within the envelope of traditional publishing tasks that would certainly take a team in traditional methods years, if not decades. I'm very close to being done. I will probably, I'm in the last stages of quality assurance. I will probably have these things ready to go by September 1st. And that's just, you know, could never have been done before by a single person. It's now possible. Another thing to just, sort of take under advisement. These are some of the covers that I created, a couple of sample pages. They all come out. They come out fine. Did some schematic infographics. Just a lot of stuff you can do now. So that's another thing I want people to realize is that publishers can now tackle huge jobs before that were never possible. Never business possible are now possible. Okay, one more thing. Okay, now I want to talk about quality because this is very, very important to me. I spend most of my time on it. And the most important thing I want people to realize is that you can dramatically improve the quality of AI generation with engineering, which means systematically applying techniques to measure and generate higher quality content. And the process that I have now is intended to leave myself out of it as much as possible, and that's because I am the scarcest resource. I don't usually talk about this part of, but this is kind of relevant to the general point I've been making. I'm a caregiver. I don't even have full time to work myself. I have two people at home to take care of, and my time is comes in fits and starts. So I have I've engineered the system to work as much as possible without my participation and to only require to ask me for permission at crucial moments. And the two crucial moments are what I call the manifest, what it says, what is the book that I want you to build, and then the other is after you've done all these steps, what is the approve the final product. And I have a little system that pops up a packet of things for me myself to review over here. You'll notice I have a book coming out on the state of the art of algorithmic publishing. And I also generated something that's about to go into print, uh, exploring the six missing books of the Legends of Troy. There actually turns out, I did not realize this until recently, that there are the Iliad and the Odyssey, but there's also six other books that are in the same epic cycle that cover different parts of the same story. Uh, this is, able to do this in a matter of days. And then if you look at this right-hand pane here, there's just an enormous series after series of checks that I make, 108 deterministic checks for files, checking, the file's the right size, are there typos, all that kind of stuff. Then there's semantic checks where the system asks, did you do what you said you did? Did what you said you were going to do. And then finally, there are two last checks I have after I could approve things. One is I have an editor-in-chief review it from the point of view of, is there anything here that would embarrass my company? Is there anything here that is not up to the quality standards? And then I have an even last one last line of defense where I have an agent that has been programmed to look for embarrassing errors. Is the author's name spelled correctly on the cover? Are all the pages right side up? Things like that. Painful experiences tells us, these things, have lives of their own. You have to guard for them, and I do. So that's the other thing I want people to realize is that painstaking engineering can make a huge improvement in quality. Then one more thing, and this is, again, probably I would think this is the most important thing I can tell you, is to avoid doomerism. Doomerism just is not for me. There are a lot of reasons for concern. I mentioned some of these in the top pane. Reading scores in the U.S. and I believe the rest of the world, reading proficiency among children is declining. College students are now reporting that they don't know how to and will not read whole books. There was a very popular article in the Atlantic, and there's been some more non-anecdotal reporting about the same thing. It is again something to be concerned about. In the U.S., the most recent Pew study found that fewer than half of U.S. adults had read a book. So this is a sort of a grim environment for book lovers and publishers, but we have been here before. I remember in 2001, people thought ebooks were going to destroy books. Fortunately, it didn't work out that way. Ebooks gained a place, but people still like printed books. Um, but the most important thing that I have to convey is that we cannot be fatalistic. There is a known huge collision coming up between the ever increasing number of books that are created to and the relatively static pool of readers. And if you follow that logic to its inexorable conclusion, you are, gee, it's pretty frightening. I think there's just not going to be enough readers. Well, we are not, we don't need to give up. There are readers out there. I've had pulled some statistics. There's 2 billion age 5 through 19 readers, potential readers in the world. That's a huge market to reach. We can improve reading skills. You cannot give up. Mississippi, the poorest state in the United States by many, many measures, dramatically improved its reading standards by a program that basically involved like focusing on teaching reading. Amazing. It's, a brilliant technique. And books can change. There are new ways of making books. The book does not have to be a static object. We can make new products that bring people into the world of books. So what I want to convey is, everybody in book publishing should be thinking every single day about how to use AI to grow the pool of book lovers. AI is not the only tool out there. Plenty of old-fashioned ways, go out and do your darndest with the letterpress. There may be a role, there's a sort of Butlerian jihad scenario where we all want to think, letterpress is the only safe mode of publishing. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen. But don't think negatively. Think, here are these incredible tools. I can go out and grow the pool of readers for myself and the world. And that is kind of, the most important takeaway I have for you. Don't be a doomer. At the end of here, these are just some resources. I think you can probably get this list of links from the conference page afterwards. I showed you my website. This is an essay I wrote about uh, sort of spelling out, here's a way to have great things happen for book lovers. This is a takeoff on the AI 2040 report that came out a few days ago. And if I can get back to where I was, that would be great.
I
Anyway,
mean, maybe that's a
I'm pretty
perfect
back.
segue,
Yeah.
Fred, to
Yes.
answer some of the question. First and foremost, thank you for putting in all the effort and sharing your thoughts with us. As you can imagine, it sparked a whole bunch of like controversial discussion in the chat. So it's actually super exciting, and I think one of the things you are putting out there is really is like at least nobody has to do it exactly the way you are working with it. But I think what you're also trying to convey here is like, let's give it a try, see where AI can take you. And there is no black or white when it comes to dealing with AI. One of the questions we instantly got, of course, and that goes along with what one of my thoughts was like, will agents take over my job as a publisher in the future, and will I end up becoming redundant? And that is a like, how do you think about when you talk about like fully automated, how fully automated is it, and where you would still put humans in the loop? You were talking very specifically about quality. So is that a place where, for example, humans should still do it? How do you look at that?
I am optimistic about this. There's a lot of debate in the technical community about this, and the big model companies have, they kind of speak out of two sides of their mouth on this, whether, is AI going to take all the jobs or just going to make
Uh,
existing jobs better? I don't think anybody really, really knows the answer. I would
mm,
say, let's assume not.
yeah,
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 let's go forward and try and do valuable things. This is kind of what I was talking about with the analogy of, now we're being trained to be princes and instead of being trained to be, craftsmen working for the prince.
yeah.
We need to think about ourselves as what can I get done with all the tools at my disposal rather than, is my job as a
Mm,
tinker going to be made obsolete?
mm.
So
Yeah, I think that really accounts for a whole bunch of areas, not only the publishing industry, in a way of like how AI will transform, I guess, our way of working and potentially thinking as well. Another question was around more revenue channels. What revenue channels are you using to measure against cost to run this? And what revenue channels does this product have you are building? Talking about Big Five killer, I assume.
well, we have there as traditional book distribution channels. There are monetization paths on the iOS app. The
Hmm.
data set process is, also, I think a fruitful one. One of the things I did during this research phase I've conducted for the last 6 months is I realized, oh, hey, I can turn what I call data books into what I call data sets in disguise. So that there are data sets. Every book in a sense is a data set, and models love data sets.
Hmm.
Broad frontiers models go out and look for data sets they can use to calculate things, and
Hmm.
there are actually ways you can like make that easier for them. And I've done some of those on my website. Uh, uh, where the world we were changing from a world where the goal is to have reviewers or word of mouth discover your book to you want the frontier model to notice your book, and
Hmm.
how do you do that? And there are ways, it turns out, making thinking of your book as a data something that speaks data is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good. One last question, and I know we're running out of time. There's way more questions out there in the chat. We will send you them afterwards, and if you have some time, maybe Fred, you could answer them either in the chat or answer them afterwards if you can make the time available. But one of the things, which I guess you're not surprised by it, but when people hear this, a lot of them are probably going to think, oh my gosh, we're getting all those spam books, like all this AI slop out in the market. How do you react to thoughts like this? What's your viewpoint on it?
Well, the first thing is, that if I was creating slot books, it would be a waste of my time. I don't do that.
Mm,
I try to hit a reasonably high bar. I
yeah,
would the books and and AIs are not cannot do everything yet. I don't think that even with all the things I mentioned, and there's a lot of things I didn't mention that I am also
yeah,
do. Uh, but even with all that, AI cannot replace a top tier human writer at this
yeah.
stage. They
Mm,
that is, and it remains to be seen whether that will ever be possible. And there are some reasons
mm,
to be skeptical about it.
yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that. Like I said, I think the problem with slop is not so much that the number of books is constantly increasing, it's that the number of audiences isn't. I don't know what
Mm,
the exact numbers are, but there's probably, 10 trillion novels generated by slop every year, and there's only a finite pool. But there are no, I know because I follow lots of individual topics, there probably aren't even, there's probably not 100 high quality naval history novels or naval
mm,
history books generated a year. And
mm,
there are lots and lots of niches that are not served, and there are lots of niches that are
mm,
way overserved by slot providers. So I
mm,
would think, don't go there. Go somewhere where you see an opportunity where you can add something that you know is valuable.
mm. So basically go niche to that degree where you say, if yeah, summarize publishing the right content to the right reader through the right medium at the right moment in time.
Yes,
That's
and
where you're saying AI could help get the
exactly, and that is
message.
publishing. That's publishing in a nutshell, with the exception,
Yeah.
one golden rule is also publishing content that people will pay for. That
Yeah,
people
well,
will.
that's a good point. Absolutely agree. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. All right,
Right.
Fred, thank you so much. We're unfortunately over time already. I'm getting all kinds of messages in the background saying like, okay, we need to move on. Thank you for doing this. If you want to hang around, of course, and there's way more chat messages out there for questions. So if you can spare some time, I think people will be super happy. As you can imagine, it sparked a whole bunch of like engagement in a very positive way, I think, and not just like we're doom and gloom. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
Um,
and please, one last thing, just
yeah.
please, everyone, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm glad to talk to people. If you got my coordinates, go for it.